GP
We'll get 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We'll get 5 minutes. So we'll wait 5 minutes. Hello, hello. Okay, I think we're going to get started. Could everyone actually come closer? We're going to actually ask some questions to the crowd. Yeah, come closer, come closer. Oh, closer, closer, closer. Well, today I want to start off with a very simple question, which is, what comes to mind when you think about AI? What comes to mind?
Very strong. Yeah. It's very intelligent. Yeah.
What about you, sir? Listen here. What? We want some answers from the crowd on what they think about when they hear AI. Joyce.
It will be the next generation of mainstream technology.
Okay. Ian.
A buzzword will get you more fundraised.
That's true.
So AI is definitely important technology. So we need to focus on AI definitely.
But I'm interested in a vector database.
Advice. Oh, here. Okay.
What else? Make the work more efficient.
Make things more efficient.
It's very helpful tool and change the purpose.
Okay. So none of you talked about AI hardware, like the things that actually power these AI solutions. And so I think an important topic that is often overlooked is actually the driving force behind these AI solutions that get deployed and get used by people like you. And so the chips, the servers, the data integrity, data security. And so today we actually have Alex here, founder of GMI, which is also a headline portfolio company, to talk about how he's optimizing the tech stack for AI and deploying it globally around the world. So first, we want to introduce Alex. If you want to give a brief introduction on yourself.
Thank you, Jackson. So about the company is called GMI Cloud, and what it stands for is General Machine Intelligence Cloud. We're here to build the AGI infrastructure for the future. And the mission of the company is very simple. It's just allow anyone to deploy AI instantly, right? I think you guys have the problem of how to deploy AI or even what topic to choose of AI, either optimizing for your workflow or creating new services, new product, or even create an AI girlfriend, right? You need a way, a means to deploy. And we allow that to happen by vertically integrating hardware and software onto our platform. From the infrastructure, GPU up, all the way to container services and API for you to fine-tune, to train, or inference any type of AI workloads on our platform instantly. Roughly right now, we have 5 data centers with 3,000 plus H100s across the world. So it allows you to fine-tune or do any of your AI workloads on our platform instantly, just like you're signing up for a Gmail.
Awesome. And maybe, Alex, to start, why don't you give us some quick background on actually how the business started? Because when you initially started, the business was not what it is today. So maybe a quick touch on that quickly, because I think it's super interesting.
Sounds good. Starting a business never but easy. But we started off as a data center provider. I actually built 3 data centers in US, in middle of nowhere in Arkansas and Texas. Right now, 2.5 years ago until now, we have currently over 500 acres of land plus 57 megawatts of power building actual data centers to provide for Bitcoin miners to use our power and internet. So that was the founding history of GMI. And about 6 months ago, thanks to Jackson and team and Headline, VCs and founders have reached out to me saying, hey, Alex, I think you really need to provide GPU services and AI services because that's what we need. And you already have a lot of HPC in US.
So then, as you've made that change over the last 6 months, what are some major themes that you're seeing in terms of AI trends that have really accelerated the demand for your business, and also kind of in the future as you think about what could be demanded then, how are you well positioned to capitalize on that?
Yeah, so I think there's a major difference about this AI trend and the last, right? I think the Gen AI or LLM space, you see that initially, right, AI is good for processing, right? Optimizing for processing, right? Or ML, machine learning, basically. But LLM and Gen AI allows you to understand reasoning and understanding. That's the new traits that this generation of AI can do, right? So it's not. Here's what I see, right? Whenever there's a fundamental UI UX change, how you interface with an application, there will be a revolution, right? Coming from, say, back in the days in radio to PC era, right? PC era to mobile era. Whenever there's an interface change, there will be a revolution. I think similarly in this LLM space, initially in search, right? You're typing and searching for information, right? You have to go through every single link to find the right answer. But right now, you can find and locate the answer directly, giving you a reasoning. I think that's the fundamental difference. And with that, going to further, the infrastructure will have to be changed. So in the classic computing era, which is dominated by the three hyperscalers, GCP, Azure, and AWS, right? They're focusing on processing. They're a storage cloud. All the information, the line, the YouTube, the TikTok that you're watching have already been created weeks ago, months ago, or years ago, right? So you're merely pulling the data to the edge, to your phone. That's it, right? There's not much processing that's been done. But in the Gen AI world, this information does not exist before you type in. So it's a computational cloud compared to a storage cloud that has happened. So it's a blue ocean right now where there's no company that owns 5% of the entire world share in terms of a computing cloud.
Maybe that's a nice segue into kind of who you're competing with in the market, because like you said, it's a blue ocean, but there are big players in this market like AWS, Azure. How are you differentiating yourself from the rest, and then who do you see most often head-to-head in the market?
Right. I think definitely the hyperscalers are a formidable players and competitor, but they are focusing, they have too much legacy debt, right? Meaning most of their tech stack is still built for CPUs, right? Built for storage, right? If you want to build a website. But they're not optimized for the AI world. So the computing, the GPUs that they have isn't enough. My experience is actually all our entire team came from Google X and GCP. So the problem why they joined me is because the Vertex AI by GCP was very difficult to use, and they can't find compute resource, right? Just like traditional car company can't build an EV until Tesla emerged, right? And then it takes 5 to 10 years to catch up for the GPU stack. So I think that is the legacy business, and we're a startup. We only have one bullet, and all our bullet is spent on how to optimize for AI stack. I think the goal is to abstract away the difficulty of running an AI project, right? And we make that super simple and easy for you. For example, if you're fine-tuning a Llama 3, right, you can make that happen on our platform under 30 seconds, from sign up to actual inferencing or fine-tuning. So I think that's incredible. By integrating both hardware and all the way up to ICE to PaaS model, which we offer a container solution from Hugging Face. And we also add in our secret sauce that allows us to inference 22x faster than our competitor. As to our competitor, I would say hyperscalers aren't really our main challenges because they're focusing on much larger accounts, big corporates and enterprise. If you don't have a $20 million in your bank account, you're unlikely to get an account manager as to even on-site or customer support. For us, we're friendly to startup, and startups like to use us because we're fast response, we're optimized for AI, for any workloads that people want to run. As to the competitor, I would say US side is mostly Lambda in the US that will be competing with us. But Asia, I believe is still a little bit lagging behind the US, and I don't see too much services at this moment in Asia. That's why we're focusing on helping Asia entrepreneurs to train their AI on our platform.
And of your customer base today, how much is in Asia, how much is in the US and the kind of rest of world?
I would say 80% right now is US based, US American based, and
Okay.
then 20% is in Asia Pac.
And are there differences in terms of the use cases that you're seeing in each geography, or talk to us about how your customers are using
so
it today?
in the US, there's a lot of foundational research and foundational training. In Asia, it's mostly fine-tuning on existing LLMs. There's also in Asia Pac, there are a lot of larger enterprise that wants to build a industrial-specific model, which is also very interesting compared to US. US is foundational training on building the AI of a Shopify or Spotify, but in Asia, I see, at least in our cases, we see some, for example, we have a HR SaaS company that have a lot of HR resources and data, and they use that to train their own LLM, for example. But in Asia, actually, also the other aspect on the Asia side on fine-tuning is actually similar to character AI, if you're familiar, basically creating a digital twin of yourself. Like as simple as uploading your WhatsApp conversation, you'll be able to clone yourself or clone your girlfriend and you can add a interface of avatar. So you can virtually do a lot of different things on various applications, which is more application focused than US.
Got it. There's also this topic about sovereign AI, where certain countries, they want to protect and enhance the data that they collect domestically, and they want to make sure that they keep it locally as well. What exactly is sovereign AI to you, and then how do you want to capitalize on this demand for this need?
Yeah, I think sovereign AI, it's not political to me, but I think it's about owning your own data, right? So for example, do you really want your private conversations to be uploaded to the cloud and big companies can use that to sell products to you? More or less, but maybe not something that's too private, right? So I think it's the same thing. If you're a large enterprise or enterprise in general, you have a lot of private information. Maybe you're a manufacturer. You have a lot of proprietary data on how to manufacture, for example, a bottle of water. You don't want the cloud to know this because they can easily clone you, selling the data to other competitor. Similar to sovereignty, right? So in this case, I come from Taiwan, right? If you use GPT and ask GPT, what is the best noodle shop in Taipei? They wouldn't know because they don't have that data. So in a sense, LLM is like a child. It's depend on what type of information you feed him. He will grow up to a different person. So you want to build your own character of your own LLM, and that requires proprietary data. And that's my definition of sovereign AI. So it applies to sovereignty, who wants to preserve your own culture, or enterprise, you want to preserve your own data, or personally, right, you want to create a digital twin to help you respond to email or text people, for example. Then you want that to be in a local base instead of being used by other or larger corporation, which is my definition of sovereign AI, means controlling your own data.
So what needs to happen for GMI to start selling to these governments and these countries? Like, are there certain changes in your business that need to happen, and whether it's compliance, data integrity, or whatnot, so that they can start accepting kind of this process and working with you? Or what needs to happen?
Yeah, so you probably heard of data security, data sovereignty, ownership of data, probably since the last couple of years of the global decoupleization, right? Localization. Japanese companies or, Asian companies, they don't want to use hyperscalers because that's like all the data is actually database is in US, right? So you want to own that. So a couple of things that needs to happen is to have local cloud, meaning the data centers and also the information stays where it is generated. For example, if the information is coming from Japan, it should stay in Japan, right? It makes sense. And so it should not be sent to a North Virginia data center in the US to process, because they can easily take that and sell it to other companies, because it's the easiest way to do so, right? So I think that's different. So there will be a lot of hyper-localized cloud that needs to happen, and also different type of compliance. For example, Europe is probably the forefront in terms of having these type of regulation and insights, right? They have GDPR, which requires data to be hosted locally. And I think each sovereignty are starting to realize that. And then I think it will be very important to have a local cloud, say in Japan, to support local businesses and startup owners.
And outside of Japan, I guess, are there certain countries right now that you're targeting specifically? Is it Japan or Indonesia? Like, where do you see the most opportunity right now? Or more forward-thinking country that's thinking about this?
I think Japan is definitely very, very interesting. There's a lot of applications to be built. And I've never seen this, I guess, excitement among founders in Japan to build their own AI model, right? I think Japan has kind of missed the mobile revolution. But I think on this generation of AI, we cannot fall behind, right? Because this is revolutionary. For example, in the past, all the information generated is linear by the number of people, the number of KOLs or digital artists or user-generated content there are, right? So the generation of information is linear. But right now, with Gen AI or with LLM, the generation of information is exponential, right? With enough GPU, you can generate information and crush other companies, right? The search are instant. So for example, just like application, that can happen, right? Is call center, right? In Philippines, in say India, they employ hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, to doing call center. But right now, with Gen AI, you actually can kind of replace them by using just a centralized AI model that knows everything about the product, and then even questions that you don't even know by anticipating your answer and anticipating your next question. So I think it's very important for Japanese companies or founders or startup founders to start building applications with a Japanese touch. So I think Japan is definitely very interesting. I would also encourage other founders or enterprise within Asia to start leveraging the database that they have collected for the last decades. I think Asia is extremely good at, I would say, manufacturing, physical, manufacturing or designs. And there's a lot of data that's been used to increase their own processes. For example, I save 5 minutes on this supply line. But I think what needs to be changed is not just that, but also adding services, software on top of that. So I think there's a saying, right? Software has been eating the world for the last 20 years. And I think AI is going to eat software in the next 10 years.
So something that Alex actually hasn't touched on yet, which is he is actually the largest NVIDIA preferred partner in Taiwan. And so I guess talk to us about your relationship with NVIDIA and kind of how you're using their chips. But long term, is there any sort of risk for you depending on their chips, given the supply chain squeeze that globally we're facing today?
Yeah, so NVIDIA is a very close partner of us. So to date, we're the only NCP, which is NVIDIA Cloud Partner in Taiwan. We're also top 5 in Asia. We have 4 data centers across, 2 in Taipei, 1 in Thailand, 1 in Malaysia to support the local ecosystem. So on a supplier perspective, we're always the tier one, right? Always priority level one to get the latest H100s for any type of AI workloads that you want to do. But also they're also a close partner, relationship partner, where they introduce a lot of enterprises to work with us. On top of that, NVIDIA offers a lot of, call it toolbox, right? On how to, for example, networking, on NVIDIA NIM or NVIDIA NeMo, which you probably heard Jensen has talked about for the last couple of months, right? But you have no way to access or to use it. We are kind of the knights of NVIDIA that allows and enable anyone to deploy quickly. So I would say it's a close partner that on the one hand, obviously, they want us to sell, to buy more gears from them.
Wow.
But at the same time, we're able to monetize that. We're able to use that effectively for our customers that who wants to use their services. For example, we're integrated with NIM right now, which there are over 200 open source models hosted on our cloud. So whether you're doing Llama 3, Mistral, Stable Diffusion, or you want to do Nematron, which is a 340 billion parameter model, or you want, you're a biotech engineer, you want to do AI drug discovery, right? Protein folding, it's all on that platform. Or even robotics and EV, right? All the open source models is on our platform, on our cloud. So if you're a founder or if you're an enterprise executives, you want to test our AI solution, we'll be able to help deploy that under 30 seconds. So you have to wait months to think about and going to Hugging Face to find the right model. We already pre-programmed that in a container for you to deploy instantly via on our platform or via our API.
And outside of the NVIDIA NIM, I guess talk to us about, I know you're working with Mistral and other of these partners. Talk to us about your other data integrations and models that you've already pre-built. Yeah.
So Mistral, I think they're more on the upper stack, right? So they're the application companies. So they're some of the LLM companies are our customers. So we basically, people compare us to a selling shuffle business in a gold rush. But I cannot agree, but we're more like a shovel leasing business, right? And we lease these shovels to applications companies like Mistral, like OpenAI, for example, right? So here's how I see the applications that are happening. You have multiple models competing. You have Anthropic, you have Mistral, you have Llama, there's NVIDIA's Trained One, Nematron, there's OpenAI, and each are trying to compete on, say, who is the best LLM, right? But I think it's just, they're great on different things, right? Just like a lot of software companies you see that they're like, oh, we do everything. But in the end, it's just like, oh, we're better at X, we're better at Y, we're better at Z. So in terms of a oil and gas kind of thinking, it's everyone try to claim that, oh, we're gasoline, we can be versatile and be used by anyone. But in the end, how I see it is just like, one is like built similar to diesel, it's for trucks. One is for jet fuel, for airplane. One is built for gas, for cars. But I think right now they're in a mindset of trying to grab the largest TAM, right? Trying to be, okay, we want to build the best versatile LLM. But I think in the future, they will be a separation of work and focus on each strength, each application strength. That's how I think about the application layer. But for us, we're kind of like Saudis, right? We provide the shovels or provide the oil for them, the crude oil, for them to build whatever applications they want, right? So them, to me, they're they're great. I mean, they can continue to train their own model, and we're kind of arms dealers, right? We provide the necessary firepower for them to build anything they want.
So today, you're more of the shovel leasing company, but how do you see your business evolving, say, in the next 5 years then?
I think it's a very, very interesting question. So I think one line is to go into customers' workflow, okay? So if you're just providing compute, I think it will get commoditized, right? Everyone can eventually build the same stack, right? We'll provide monitoring tool set, we provide data pipeline visualization, whatnot. It will be similar, but I think going into customers' workflow is very important. For example, there's a company, one of the largest streaming companies that came to us and said, hey, our streamers are all Japanese, and we want to go into the Chinese market. But the streamers won't be able to speak Chinese, obvious reasons. And so we actually built a voice-to-voice model that's under 100 milliseconds of latency for them, right? We sell them the model services. So we're transitioning from an infrastructure company to a software company. We provide a model as a service company to them. And we're able to help them to do inferencing better and faster and cheaper. So how I see is to continue to integrate upwards to provide actual services that will be helpful to company directly. We actually do that with a couple of selected companies. For example, another example is there is a IC design company that came to us, and we basically are in pilot phase to help them provide an analog design copilot for them, which is a huge mega project. But if they're able to do that, that would allow their engineers to code 50% more efficient. So imagine how that would change the entire competition landscape for them, also to their competitors. So it's a extremely useful tool to deploy fast. And like one anecdote is people ask me, it's like, oh, AI is gonna replace my job. No, the company that uses AI is gonna replace your job.
So maybe to kind of wrap things up, what keeps you up at night as you continue to build and scale your business today?
We have to move faster. We have to move faster. I always tell my colleagues and employees, like, they always ask me, okay, when is the deadline? I always answer, I want it yesterday. Yeah.
And are there certain priorities that you have over these next 6 months that you absolutely need to hit to kind of get to where you want to be, or what's top of mind?
For me, is to continue scaling globally. I want to support companies. I want to support founders to build their own applications on our platform. And we want to be the helper for you to fulfill your goals and dreams. I think that's very important. And to do that, we need to continue to scale our GPUs across the world, right? So I think right now, it's mostly training focus or fine-tuning focus. But in the next 6 months, it's going to be inferencing. As they hit their product market fit, there will be a lot of users flooding in. And latency will matter. For example, the voice-to-voice model, if it waits for 1 second, that's too late, right? So we want to scale locally and globally. Locally means we want to provide ultra-low latency for Japanese users. And we were able to optimize 2 things, right? Cost and efficiency. For example, if your user is coming from US, you don't want that information to send to Japan and back. That one way is 300 milliseconds, and back and forth is 600 milliseconds plus transfer. So that's 1 second of delay, just on location base. So we want to scale globally and locally to support better customer experience for our customers across the world.
Awesome. I guess anything to wrap up the conversation, anything else you want to say to the crowd here? Or we can open up the floor for questions.
Sure, let's do it.
I guess anyone in the crowd have questions for Alex as it relates to AI?
So it seems like you build your own data center, and from the infrastructure side or hardware side, and you also help your customer to do project like you said the voice to voice or something like that. So that's quite cover a lot of the vertical range, and some of them may not easy to scale since you're a VC-backed company. So what you see is the most important thing that because they wanted to grow. So what's your growth engine you wanted to focus on?
I mean, most of the companies that come to us already know what they were building. So they're like, hey, Alex, we just need, say, 10 H100s for 3 years. Here's the project that I'm doing. So it's kind of auto-scaling on their end. And by the way, we provide auto-scaling on our platform. So it's not a bare metal cell, but a container. So they can move up or down, depends on their workloads, right? And we also provide on-demand services, which allow startup founders to sign up very quickly. We can give basically 14 days of H100 cards on demand, right? For you to train your own platform. So, yeah.
Thank you for the speech. And I was wondering, like, you are thinking about expanding your companies locally, and in Japan, I believe there are several like data centers provided by AWS. And what is your strategies on competing against those kind of big tech companies?
Yeah, I mean, AWS, first of all, your data is sent to North Virginia. It's actually pretty exact. That's most of where the GPU is coming from. But we will be able to provide, because all our GPUs is mostly in Asia Pac. So the latency would be much faster. And then, while it's kind of co-opetition between NVIDIA and AWS, they actually send in a technical term, PCIe version of a lower level version of GPUs to AWS. And AWS doesn't have enough GPU bandwidth either. So even if you're a startup founder, you probably get like AWS credits, right? You probably won't have, when you want the compute, they won't be able to provide that instantly for you, right? But for us, once you sign up, you will have access to a fully integrated IB Connect SXM, which is the state-of-the-art GPU stacks that allows you to train foundation model in a large thousands cards cluster, as to say 2 GPUs that may or may not be available to you when you need it.
And that's a great question, actually, because why don't you also talk about how some of the customers that are coming to you actually previously were AWS users that used up all their credits and then finally came to you. I can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I get a lot of requests from founders that have used up AWS or Azure credits, and they come to us and say, hey, Alex, we did our pilots. We need a long-term cloud partner to help us scale. So we actually get quite a lot of these type of customers in the last couple of days, especially, and actually this morning I just got another call by a founder that used up their credits. And one thing about us is we are affordable and provide, I would say, economical cloud that is actually AI optimized and provide container services. For example, AWS won't be able to provide the NIM service, a model services. They're a cloud company, so they focus on infrastructure without providing actual models. And for example, AWS or Azure, they want to provide their own AI models, right? For example, Azure would push OpenAI products to you. AWS will push Anthropic product to you. But for us, we're infrastructure company. Think of us as like AI TSMC, right? whatever you want to build, we'll build it for you. We're not predisposed to sell you a particular product, right? So I think that's very important.
Yeah. No.
Hey, so I mean, being the CEO of a company is a very hard thing to do. I'm very curious, like what kind of secret habits or CEO advice you would give other people who are aspiring CEOs. Any special habits that you have, or things that you do. That
Thank you.
can share.
Thank you. I think that's very important. I think being a founder is it's a long-term game. It's you're running a marathon, not a sprint. If you don't have the health or have the stamina, the mental focus to run long-term, then you're gonna crash, because I mean, if you don't get enough sleep, then you won't be able to make good decisions. And initially, 2 years ago, I was making 5 figures or 6 figures decision, and now I'm making 8 figures decision, and one mistake will cost us everything. So I think having that is very important. For me, I do long distance running, and I love sauna. Sauna is amazing.
But I have a fundamental question to understand your business. As a Japanese, I think it would be better to have data centers in Japan, but our company has a disadvantage of high electricity cost. And what do you think about it? And infrastructure may need to be installed locally due to latency issues. But what about learning infrastructure?
So I mean, for us, it's actually quite easy for us to set up a data center in Japan. For us, it takes 2 months, actually, 1 month to 2 months to set up a clusters. And so if a large enterprise wants us to do so, then we'll be able to do that in under a quarter. For startup founders and smaller startups, then if you want to run any applications, we have data centers in all over Asia. So you can actually choose the cluster that you want. And each cluster will have a different pricing due to like tax or due to tax and also power price, right? So as a startup, usually are more cost conscious, right? So for example, the Thailand cluster will be cheaper than Taiwan and probably cheaper than Japan. So that would be a choice immediately that we can offer, right? And when you scale to a certain moment to say, hey, we need a 10,000 cards cluster connected, then happy to support when that day comes.
So you are in a very interesting position that you can, since you're like the TSMC, so you can look at the different startups for what they're trying to build. For you said that the US team, US startup, they are also building foundational models, but I assume they don't want to compete with OpenAI or GPT-4 directly. So what's their up for these foundational models?
Well, they try. People didn't realize how fast OpenAI is going to move. There's plenty of text-to-video startups that does their own foundational training. They're still trying to compete. That's why they're raising 9 figures to compete there. And there's different application-specific foundation model that you can do, right? For example, financial, or inference, or legal, or HR, right? There's multiple different applications that are built. For example, what I really want to see, for example, we built a voice-to-voice model, but it's a 3 model combined into one, right? It's a voice-to-text, text-to-text, and text-to-voice. But that's still, the latency is too big. So if a company can build a end-to-end voice model that is quantized, then that can be fit on your phone, that would be insane. You will be able to understand any languages in the world, translated in real time, or even maybe translation is just the first step, but understanding will be a whole different ballgame. So I really look forward to these type of applications to be built on different industries or different type of interface, right? On vision, on voice, on action. Right now, it's still pretty much a summarizing tool, right? If you give it a passage and ask it to summarize, it's great, easy. But if you ask them to, hey, order me Uber Eats, call me a taxi and bring me home, it cannot do that yet, right? So you can integrate with all the application services. An action model would be, there are still too many edge cases that it's not feasible at this moment. And there are a lot of US companies are building that using multimodal models. And so these are all foundational research and LLM training, which I think will happen in the next 2 years.
All right. Any other questions from the crowd? If not, well, thank you, Alex, for the time.
Thank you, Jackson.
All right. Well, Alex will be here to answer any questions if you have any.